Right, welcome back. This is a 1978 Suzuki GT185 twin-cylinder two-stroke. Electric start, 12-volt lights, hydraulic front disc. Now, 1978, that was a revolution. I had one of these in blue. Rode the wheels off it, great fun. Back in the UK, or in the UK back up until, I think it was late 1983, you could ride up to 250 on L plates. So of course 185s, 175s, 200s, up to 250 were quite popular. Then the government of the day, they're all rotten, it was just that rotten government of the day, decided that no, you're having far too much fun, so they cut it in half and we're stuck with 125s. This has come in because it will start and run and ride, but it won't idle. Now, the carburetors have been in an ultrasonic cleaner, apparently boiled up. I'm going to ignore everything I've been told because that can send you down a rabbit hole. You need to do your own due diligence. So basically we're going to whip the tank off, take the plugs out and do a compression test to start with and see what we've got. I don't know. And then we'll go from there. So let's get to it. Pretty straightforward to get the tank off on these. And of course this is oil injection. You don't have to pre-mix your fuel. There's a tank under the seat, you put your oil in and it's pumped. And the amount it pumps gets greater as the RPM picks up, as you wind the throttle open, so it squirts more fuel in. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Back in the day, you had to, pre-mix your fuel, gallon of fuel, put a right amount two-stroke in, but literally undo that, wiggle, and then pull the fuel line off. There's no electrics under here, there's no fuel gauge, no nothing, so I'd quickly whip this off. Now, the fuel in here is pretty grim. I think it's about 3 or 4 months old, so that'll want junking anyway. Voila, there you go. That was complicated, wasn't it? Do like working on old stuff. No fairing, no plastic, no electronics. Excellent. I'm going to pull the plugs. I did charge the battery up the other day because it's got a new battery on it. I'm just curious to see what we've got, so let's get plugs back up. Right, whip the plugs out and I've just plugged them back in the plug caps because it's going to spark because ignition is going to be live. And I've got my old metal compression tester out. I haven't used this in years. Let's just see what we got. So I'll take the other plug out so it should just spin over. One of the throttles wide open so it gives a full gob of air and then see what happens. 135. Well, that's very respectable. That's pretty good. I'll do this side. And wind the throttle on. 140. Good enough. That's very close. I'm not going to worry about that too much. So, why won't it idle, I wonder? Could be a load of things. And a lot of you are going to say, oh, the crank seals will be shot. That's why it's sucking in air and all the rest of it. Possibly, highly unlikely, but possibly. The only way to detect that is to take the exhaust off and block them off. Take the carburetors off, block it off. And pressurise down through the plug hole. You need to set the piston on the side you're testing because you've got to treat them as two separate engines because though they're connected in the middle, they're actually sealed, so it's a sealed unit. You want the piston about halfway down the cylinder so you open the transfer port so you can pressurise the crankcase, and you only need to pressurise them to about 5 psi and see if it holds, and then do the other side. If you do any more than that, you're likely to blow a seal out. So the next job is get the carbs off. Let's have a look at these carbs. I doubt very much that the crank seals are shot on this. So I'm going to pull the carbs off and have a look and see what we've got. So I think that's the next job. We'll put the plugs back in so nothing goes down the hole. Right, now I've got it set up with, this is a vacuum and pressure gauge. Does up to 10 psi as well as 25 inches of vacuum as well. Ideal for this job, and this is just a blood pressure bulb pump that you've seen your doctor use, and I've checked all for leaks. I've got the inlets blocked off with silicone caps, and I've got steel plates and rubber gaskets, and literally you just pump it up like you're doing your blood pressure, I'll bring in a bit closer so you can see. I go around with soapy water squirt and make sure you've got no fizzers anywhere, make sure you've got no leaks on anything, and I will zoom in on that gauge because I'll show you what's going to happen. Now in theory, if any leaks, because everything's blocked off, should only come out of this side seal if it's leaking, because we're testing this cylinder and they are separate because there's an oil seal in the middle. But unfortunately, I'll show you what happens if I zoom in on the gauge for you. Whoops, get it off right, like that. And I go and take that plug out the other side. You'll see what happens. It's starting to creep away. Now it shouldn't do that. That should stay, if there's no leaks between the two, that should stay where it was. We're testing this cylinder, unless you've got a leak out of this crank seal. Unfortunately, this means that we have a leak between the seal, between the two cylinders, because you must have the engines effectively, though they're joined by a crankshaft, separate. Without crankcase vacuum in each individual side, these things will never draw fuel in properly. Piston ported two-strokes without crankcase vacuum will not start and run properly. You often have to put a bit of fuel down a plug hole to get them going. And once you get a bit of RPM, they'll keep going badly, but they won't idle. You see a lot of people who allegedly restore chainsaws and stuff on here, and you never see them idle. You see them revving them all the time once they've got them going, and that's because they're clapped out basically and they won't draw fuel. Because basically, I don't know if a lot of people understand, is that when the piston goes up, you create vacuum in the crankcase, it draws fuel through your carburettor. Let me zoom out a bit so you can see a bit better. Yeah, you draw fuel through your carb in the bottom because you've got a vacuum in your crankcase. Piston comes down, opens the transfer ports, that fuel then goes via the transfer ports to top of the piston, and of course then as the piston goes up, it goes to compression, stroke, and then fire. Well, of course, while that's happening, as the piston's going up to compress that charge of fuel, you get crankcase vacuum, which is then drawing another charge of fuel into the crankcase, ready to go through the transfer ports. Once the piston fires, it goes down, get your power stroke, exhaust port opens because the piston comes down below it, exhaust gas is out, transfer port opens, you've pressurised the crankcase because the piston's gone down, and the fuel gets transferred by the transfer port back up onto the top, up it goes, and the cycle starts again. That's how a basic piston ported two-stroke works. Chainsaws, strimmers, early two-strokes without reed valves and stuff like that. But even if you've got reed valves, you've still got to have a crankcase vacuum for it to draw fuel. So I hope that makes sense. So without it, this is never going to run. So I need to, unfortunately, tell the customer, even though I think we have carburettor issues because they were leaking fuel, we have crankcase seal issues, which I'm very surprised at, to be brutally honest. I haven't had one like that for years. So the next question is it worth doing? It needs fork seals, paint work done, and cost of rebuilding this motor correctly, because the crank has got to be completely split down, so you're going to end up putting new crank bearings, big end roller bearings, big end pins, crankshaft bearings, seals, both ends and in the middle, so you might as well do a reborn new pistons, because you'll be replacing little end bearings, all the oil seals, gaskets in the rest of the engine. Is it worth it from the customer's point of view? Yes, it can be done, not a problem, we can do it here, but that is a question for the customer, so we'll have to get back to you on that. Right, while we're waiting from the owner for the GT185 to tell us what we want to do, we've got a price up, you know, even if it's viable to fix that engine at the moment. Now we've discovered that it's not a happy chappy. We've got this to do as well, and another little project over there I'll show you in a minute, but this is a, it's a 65 plate, what's that, 2015? Which is like brand new to me, this is. Kymco K-Pipe 125 semi-automatic 4-speed, which we bought in for a family member a while back, and it's now time to do something about it. Forks are good, rear tyres out, chain and sprockets are good, got compression, but we don't seem to have any gears. Though it's a semi-auto, we should have gears. So I'm going to stick a battery on it and just see if anything else happens. So lift the seat off like that, And I don't have the right battery for it, so I'm just stick a battery in the hole, which I have over here, and just see if anything comes to life. So if you've got any electrical gremlins, let's just stick that in the hole. I can just hold the connectors on for now, see what it does. Don't really matter. Like that. Got them right way around. Let's turn the key on. We've got both keys for this as well, which is most unusual. Oh, disappeared. Where are you going? There. 12,930 miles, no fuel in it. Okay, so anything work? Oh yeah, it does. Yeah. Brake light, yeah. Headlight, lights. So I don't know anything about this. Yeah, all the lights work. Side light, yeah. Does it crank? Yeah, it does. Oh, that's good. So I think what we need to do is get all the plastics off and get the carb out, clean the carb because it's been sat well, dump what fuel's left in the tank, it smells rank. It does have a Go Faster stainless exhaust silencer on this with no baffles in it, so that's going to make the most horrendous noise, and also reduces the power that you had if you'd have just left it alone, because I doubt if anybody's upjetted the carburettor to compensate for the extra flow of exhaust gases you can have. So I need to put a baffle in that. I mean, if we don't actually have any gears, it feels like the selector arm's moving, but the drum that selects the gears, which you've seen on a few of my other videos on how the selector mechanism works, doesn't appear to be turning for whatever reason. So, and somebody's been in here. We've got cornflakes box gasket with Magic Monkey Goo on it, sticking it on. So we may have issues. I don't know anything about this. It's been sat in a container for a while and I'm just looking at it now. The front brake works, back brake works. I think basically it's quite a sound little bike, so it just wants a back tyre and sort this gear shift out. Worst case scenario, we could stick a different engine in. It's a standard pit bike, 125, big valve head on it, I think, 4-speed. So let's get rejigged and we'll get some plastics off and let's see if we can get into the carb. Just before we get stuck into taking the Kymco apart, this is a 50 something Fowler PA1. I think I've had it 20 years, it may be more. I didn't have a tank, didn't have an exhaust. I made an exhaust, tank I managed to source, but some clown had taken this cover off, which has the badge on it, will give you all the details, and then pulled the original mag off through the crankcase without taking the gear off. Thankfully the gear was still inside, and I machined it and made a boss to fit that Wyco mag on. The engine was semi-seized. I did make a starting handle for it. Now these are roller bearing crankshaft bearings, and you'll probably be able to hear them. So I think they need replacing. It still has got a bit of compression. I think it will probably run, even making that horrible noise. But this is one of those things I really ought to get my finger out and finish. I made the chassis for it. It does take a car alternator and runs lights. That was the idea. But after 20 years of sitting around, maybe we'll do a few videos on this, stripping it, completely overhauling it, and putting it back together again. Whether we paint or not is another matter. But right, now we'll get back to the bike. Right, got the plastics off in the end. Yeah, that's a right puzzle of which bit's connected to what, and yeah, I hate plastic bikes. Oh God. Anyway, it looks quite clean under here. I don't think anybody's been in here. It's very clean. You know, powder coat on the frame's pretty good. You know, the tank, I mean, look at the tank, it's tiny, but it can't hold much more than about a gallon, I shouldn't think. Don't know whether the fuel gauge actually works. It's reading nothing in the moment, and there is a bit of yuck in there. It's only got one fuel out. There's no reserve on this. It's just fuel out and a tap on the carb there. So hopefully the fuel gauge does work. Otherwise, you're going to want to know your mileage. It has a pointless exhaust gas recirculation debris on here. It's there, and there's some pipes off the back of the cylinder head. What a complete and utter waste of time that is. On a bike that's small. So it's obviously to get it through Euro 4 or 5, whatever it is. So the next job is take this carb off. I took the front of the airbox off. There is an element in there, so that was a bit, it's just a foam one, but it was there and it's usable. So I'm going to whip this off get the carb off, and then we'll set up on the bench, and we'll get it stripped out and clean it out. Hopefully it's not too gummed up. So we'll get set up for that in a minute. Right, thought you might like to see this. There is up in here, there is a vacuum operated fuel shut off, as well as a fuel tap. Why do you need both? It does work actually. I pulled the vacuum line off and sucked on it, and the fuel that was in the fuel filter came out of this pipe, which is completely rock solid and no good. That needs replacing. Even if we change this engine, because the gearbox is toast, and we won't know till we get amongst it, I'm still going to need this carb, possibly this carb, certainly that manifold, because I want to use the air box. It's with the way the frame is, if you put a standard pit bike engine in, getting it all round here is going to be awkward. And the tank is, look at that, it's tiny. I mean, it's clean as a whistle inside, absolutely lovely. And there's remnants of a bit of petrol coming out, which stinks. But there's no water in it, and I say it is clean, which was great. So yeah, the next bit is, I think they're M10s. We'll whip those off. You need to take choke cable, and all this works, all the choke's all free. Amazing really, because it's not been lubricated or oiled or anything. I'll take the carb slide out, like that, and just leave it dangling on the end. I wonder if anybody's been in here munging as well. We'll have to have a look. Carb drain off, so that pipe's had it, and that's an M10. And carb's off. And M10, there we go. I'm hoping it's not too bad inside. But, I mean, I could have just tried to start it, I suppose, and see what would happen. But again, we've got some dodgy fuel lines, which I need to replace really. If one of them springs a leak when we're messing with it, we can end up with a fire on our hands. So for the sake of replacing a few now and cleaning the carb, it's got great compression, so hopefully it will go. O-ring's still in there. Is the O-ring still? Yeah, it's all still there. So right, we need to get set up on the bench and get this apart. There is some chewed up screws on here, so somebody's obviously been playing. Right, we will reconvene on the bench. Didn't get around to videoing doing the carb, and the end, like I said I was going to. Nothing to report, it's pretty clean to be fair. I think someone drained it. So I quickly whacked it back on. I need to know what this thing sounds like, and is it going to be any good before we dive into the gearbox. There's no point spending time assuming it's fixable. So I've just found a battery that will do, and I've bodged up a fuel system. We don't seem to be spewing fuel out, so let's give it a go. Everything seems to light up, so let's just give it a go. Wow, that's pretty good. Not making any horrible noises. Obviously there's no air filter or anything on this moment. But obviously loud exhaust, that needs dealing with. There's no real smoke coming out the breather, so that's pretty good. There is instant gasket around the top of the cam box top, so somebody's been in there. 12,000, 13,000 miles, what do you expect? But we have a complete disconnect. So we have a complete disconnect between the gear shift internally and the selector drum, which you've seen on previous videos, how it ratchets round and then moves the selectors in and out to get your gears. So the next job is disconnect everything and drop the oil out of it and pull the current case off that someone's been in there. So something's broken, they had a look and went, and put it back together again and put fresh oil in it, because the oil is clean as you like. But that sounds fine. I mean, it just fires straight up on a Mickey Mouse battery, so it just sounds fine. And we've had this sat in the back of the shed in the container probably 18 months, if not 2 years. So the fact that it fired straight up like that after a quick carb clean, no knocks, rattles, no smoke out the breather. I think it's worth a further investigation. It still may be dead in the water, but we'll get it up in the air, I'll disconnect everything so it won't start, and we'll dump the oil out of it. Drain the oil out of it, and yeah, it's absolutely golden clean, brand new oil. So somebody's obviously been in here, seen what the problem was and ran away, threw it back together with a homemade gasket, and which is fine. I paid so little for the bike, I say I can put a new engine in this. But I am curious to see what the problem is. When I took the exhaust off, that bracket goes in there and that has sheared off on the fold. And also there was only one exhaust stud holding the exhaust on the head, and then the other one snapped off. So that needs to be rectified, no big deal, but I need to work out why. And if you look through the oil filler, where this adjustable push rod is here, or adjustable stop should I say, when you operate the gear shift on a Honda, and this is similar by the looks of it, there's a set of balls on a cam that rotate and push outwards and operate the clutch as you change gear. Though it's an automatic clutch as well, it actually disconnects a manual clutch. So it's working in a similar way to the Honda. All these things are copied from, as far as I'm aware anyway. I've not had one of these apart before, so we'll get this to bits and see if we can see what the problem is. So the mechanism is activating and going so far, but it's either jamming or something snapped off. And I did notice in the oil we had some sparkly bits, so something's obviously rattled round. I wish people wouldn't instant gasket things on, I really do. Use the correct gasket, they don't leak. The end. You do not need to use blasted stuff. I've seen motorcycle engines destroyed because the instant gasket, people have used too much and it's got in the oil gallery and starved part of the engine of oil and seized it up. So there's just absolutely no need for it. Where did that go? Right, I'm not sure what's going to fall out of here. Hopefully it'll come off without too much force because of that glue they put on there. Right, well, let's come off of here. Put that out. Is anything dragging? Oh, bits. Homemade gasket and bits. Okay. Maybe an original gasket glued back on. Anyway. Right, very similar idea. Okay. So, I don't know, I'll bring you in a bit closer, but now I've got the clutch mechanism out of the way that operates this clutch pack. This is a centrifugal clutch here. They do it slightly different. It's all built in on a Honda, but that's a centrifugal clutch, so you don't have to have your clutch, you know, hand clutch. And that is a standard clutch pack. And this mechanism here pushes, it's difficult to explain. I wonder if that's just not adjusted right and it's jamming up. Interesting. Well, we've got a bit missing, it's one or the other. I'll do a bit of homework. But now, I can move the gear shift. Oh, hello. We got a bearing gone, I think. I think that might, you see that? Hey, I think that might have something to do with it. That'll be the bits of metal that were floating around in there. Yeah, I don't think that's meant to be like that somehow. So, but now it will go into gear. Yeah, so it's a clutch issue, not a gearbox issue. But what's broken up on the clutch, and judging by there's a load of marks on here, this has been rattling around and hitting on something. That is probably the bits of metal I saw. Interesting. So we need to get all this lot off. That centrifugal clutch, which I've never had apart before, so that's going to be an experience. That cover, and then get that pack apart and get all this primary drive out. That is our problem. Well, at least we know what it is. It's how we fix it is the next question. If it is fixable, can we get the parts? Is it cheaper just to replace the engine and go over to a full manual and not worry about it? Seems a shame for something that runs as good, but we can use that carb and manifold, so we can use the original airbox. So, you know, but curiosity is going to get the better of me, and I'll need to know what's going on, so we need to strip that down. So I need to go and find another tray to put bits in for the clutch, because that, by the looks of it, it's going to have to come off. There will be a nut of some description in there that will pull that off. Well, I quickly whip the cover off, and this is the tool for undoing that on a Honda. I made it years ago. Oh, and what do you know? It fits. Somebody's definitely been in here, because that shouldn't be like that, as you can imagine. And the tab washer was all beat open, so yeah, someone has definitely been in here. Now, do I have the tool to get this apart? I wonder. Or will it just come apart and cooperate? No idea. Oh, it's coming apart. Hey! Yeah, that's a centrifugal clutch pack they use in this. Basically, as the RPM picks up, these spin out and grab that drum, which then drives your primary drive to your clutch. Very interesting. There's a circlip in there with a roller bearing. I'm just trying to work out, I've never had one of these apart before, so I'm trying to work out how it comes to pieces. So, that won't come past because that gear hits the cage. So, even with that in the right place, I don't think that will come by. No, so it's almost like they go on together. I wonder if they do. So, learning experience for both of us. If the casing's damaged, but with the amount of slop that's in there, it probably is. This is probably curtains for this motor, and we'll be ended up putting another one in. But we'll have a look. It's working out which bit goes on first. I'll probably have to go and do a bit of homework and then come back. I don't want to, even though it might be toast, I don't want to force anything and then break it. So let me go and do a bit of digging and get back to you. Right, not much information out there online, so I took the front clutch cover off, took all the springs out, and the nut was loose in the middle of the clutch anyway, and now this will all slide off in one piece, and I can already see the problem. Is it the bearing that's broke up, or is it... Okay, looks like the bearing has broke up. I don't know whether that's picking up on the camera. That bearing has given up the ghost. And the shaft is wobbling up and down. Yeah, I've got no balls. I've lost me balls for some unknown reason. And that lot's gone through the gearbox. So the big question is, do we persist in pulling this apart, or do we go, I think we'll put a new engine in it. It's obviously now an engine out job because I've got to strip the whole thing, split the crankcase, and get that primary drive shaft out to put that bearing in, and it'll only be a standard bearing, won't be anything special, but that's what's wrong with that. So, and being this is a semi-auto, and the lad that may end up using it is riding a 50cc manual shift, so he's going to want his 125 to be manual shift, so I'm sorely tempted to throw a new engine in it. So I think that's where we're headed right now. Let me get back to you on that. Right, I've made an executive decision, being it's me that's spending the money. I'm going to bang a new engine in this, a manual 4-speed. I'm going to tear this down anyway because I'm curious, but all those ball bearings have gone somewhere. They may have gone between the gears and chipped gears and teeth in the gearbox and done more damage, catastrophic damage, I can't see. Plus I've got the broken studs in the head to do, which again is no big deal, it's totally rectifiable, especially as the engine's got to come apart. But this thing owes me 3 packets of crisps and a pint of beer. It owes me nothing. So a tail tidy, a back tyre. I'll throw a new set of chain and sprockets on it while we're at it. That's really it, other than the engine issue. So we'll throw a new engine in. I think they're about 350 quid, something like that. Call it £400 tyre. If we spend £500 in parts, it's got a brand new motor, a new chain and sprockets, new back tyre, front tyre's pretty good, new battery, and it's on the road for a year. That was fairly cheap, 125 for the lad. So I think we'll go down that road. So what I'm going to do for this moment, I'm going to call this it for this mixed up video, because we've got quite a few things going on in this video. And we will be back with this when I've got an engine ordered, and we'll get it in. That's the first thing to do, is get the engine sorted. I'll worry about a tyre and that at another date. So we'll call that it for this video, and I'll say thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.